Welcome everyone to the 18th Annual Tallgrass Film Festival. I just want to take a moment to thank all of our amazing sponsors out there for making all of this possible and all of you for joining us for Tallgrass this year. We couldn't do it without you, so thank you. If you're enjoying yourself, please let everyone know on Facebook and Instagram. Make sure you tag us at Tallgrass Film and hashtag Tallgrass 2020. That way everyone can be in the know. Today, I would like to welcome Josh Nadler from
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. Josh is in the festival this year with the film Mirror Gaze in our horror shorts block. So, which is my favorite, always my favorite. We make little horror movies here in town and stuff like that too. And so I was like, I'm talking to all the horror folks. So. So thank you so much for being here. Do you want to just kind of give us like a real quick little bio?
Sure.
Who you are, what you do?
I live in Los Angeles. I've been here for better part of 15 years, and I work in development, and I'm a writer as well. And this was the second short I've made, and it's always a blast to make something. So I'm excited to see this make its way through the festivals this season.
Yeah, that's so awesome. So you said this is your second short?
Yeah.
Cool, very cool.
Yeah. The first one was a comedy, like an office comedy, and I don't know. I think being a horror geek, I was scared to try to do something in the horror genre just because. What if they're not scared is the thing we're all, scared of. So, but it was, I had such an amazing team around me, and this idea just felt like a simple enough idea that could be done for under 10 minutes. My last short was about 20 minutes. So I wanted to find an idea that could work as a true short film, and this felt like the right one.
Yeah, I find shorts is really, it's really interesting. It really depends on the venue, but it always seems like there's kind of like this weird sweet spot. Like you get 20 plus, then you're kind of pushing it. You're not quite a short, but you're not quite a feature. And like, it seems like 10 to 15 is a real nice place to be.
It can be, yeah. It's, like something can feel like 5 minutes that could be 30 minutes long, and something can feel like 30 minutes and it's only 5 minutes long. So I think it just depends, I guess.
Yeah, depends on the
pacing.
the pacing and the technique, right?
Yeah.
So then you mentioned you're a horror geek. I mean, so, you grow up watching movies. I mean, what made you want to be a storyteller, and what do you remember, like, a moment where you were like, that's it. That's what I want to do. Like a film that changed you or anything like that.
Yeah. I grew up in North Carolina in Charlotte, and the people that were making movies felt like they were in another universe. I had no idea how those things came together. As a kid, you're just watching the big movies, being shipped to your multiplexes, and it just felt like something that aliens were doing on another planet. And the movie that I remember seeing as a teenager that sort of switched something for me was Soderbergh's first movie, Sex, Lies, and Videotapes. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And I think I saw definitely the edited for TV version on TBS one afternoon, one Saturday afternoon. But watching that movie, knowing that was like some movie that was made a few years before, but seeing it and going, oh man, like this looks like something I could maybe do. and then the rest, I guess, was history. I started thinking about it in those terms.
Yeah, I think there was something about that, like, I know Clerks, Kevin Smith and Clerks, and even like Rodriguez and people like that Rodriguez maybe a little bit more extreme, but, it seemed like in the 90s, they made it all of a sudden seem feasible.
Yeah. It did. And it felt like it was your friends had made something and they wanted to show you it. And I think, Clerks came a few years later, but that was, one of those that I was ready to see once it hit theaters. I was old enough, one of my friends, I think, was able to drive at that point, we were all like aware of this weird movie that was, you know, all shot in a in a gas station. We're just like, man, like we're here for this. We don't know what this is, but we think this is supposed to be for us. And between that and what Quentin Tarantino is doing, you know, with Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, you know, those handful of movies really like switched gears for me, and I guess Swingers as well.
Yes.
But especially with Quentin, it just felt like, and I think I'm stealing someone's quote, but it felt like he was making just a really cool mixtape for you in the you know, the form of the movie, and it was just like the coolest thing I'd ever seen. So I just remember going, how do I get to be a part of that? This seems interesting.
Yeah, for sure. It always seems impossible until you start doing it and you realize it's just, you know, it's like eating, what do they say? It's like eating a whale. You just like one bite at a time.
Yeah.
Just kind of go for it.
Yeah, totally.
Mirror Gaze. So, you know, you mentioned this is your second film. You wanted to do something horror. What, you know, where did this idea come from? Where was the inception of the film?
The inception came from another project I was working on for these producers, and it was actually a possession movie, but there was a sequence in it involving like the mirror gaze ritual, and if that ritual kind of felt like a tag on to like this larger feature I was working on, and when I finished that sequence, it really just felt like a great idea for a short. So that became sort of the hallway scare beat that the short was built around. And I just thought it was an interesting, you know, there's a lot of sort of like scare beats that involve reflections and mirrors out there, but I hadn't seen it done as a ritual. Like there's an actual like thing you could do to try and reach to the other side. And I just thought that was like a really interesting, tight idea. And it became the short. It just felt like the thing. I could do it in 2 days in one location. You know, it was a manageable thing, and I wanted to do something all practical effects in camera. So we didn't really need any special effects, because that's something that's a real killer in post, is, you know, having to try and wrangle in effects. And so it just felt like the right thing to kind of do my first horror short on. And I guess the happy ending to that is the producer and I have developed it into a feature. So it's become sort of the device has become sort of a classic haunted house idea around the mirror gaze ritual.
Oh, very cool.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was going to, that was, you pretty much touched on one of my other questions, which was, you know, I noticed that there, you know, it did seem like there were opportunities to use, CGI or any like visual effects like that. But it did seem like you wanted to go the route of in-camera trickery, practical uses. Is that, I mean, other than it just kind of being hindering the post process and everything, I mean, is that something that you hold dear? I mean, are you one of are you like me when you're like practical effects all the way, baby?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I think there's something really great about in-camera effects, right? It's there, you know, the practical monsters, the blood, the guts, you know. I'm not a huge gore fan, but if it's gore, you want to see it in camera, you know. I think all of that is great. It's what sort of I think it's a big part of like the story also being the star. Like there are so many horror films out there, but like they're few and far between when you're also caught into the story. And I think that is connected to sort of the practicalness of some of these effects. And I'm not against CGI. I think as an independent filmmaker, you know, we just want to make sure that we're able to bite off, you know, we could bite off what we could chew. Is just like this, you know, it's a budget constraint. You want to make sure if you're going to use CGI, it's going to look amazing. And, you know, when a budget is needed and and I have the resources, you know, it's not something I won't shy from. I just think for now it was like my first attempt at horror. I wanted to see if I could pull it off in a practical way. You know, it was one of the rules I created for myself for this project. So it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think, I'm all about practical effects, and I agree. I think it kind of ties you in, but I do agree that there are many, especially in the age we're living in now, you know, if you can do it well, if you can blend the two, even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a really great choice because again, it just seemed, it kept that thing seemed much more real to me because
Yeah.
you weren't taken out of it by by CGI that may have missed the mark or something, you know,
Yeah.
which can tend to happen. So what went into the design of Rachel? I mean, how do you approach that? I mean, did you pull from different inspirations, or did you have something, a look you wanted to go with from the beginning?
No, you know, it was one of those things where we were sort of backing into what was available, and for us, you know, it was the the Rachel as the mom's daughter who she lost versus this thing that pops up that we're not quite sure what this is. You know, we ended up lucking out and using my producer's cousin, who is just at a stage in her life where she's a teenager and just she shot up really quickly. So she's like just really tall and thin and just has this great look to her. And so we were able to use her as the actual daughter, where all the pictures in the house are of her, like, you know, through the years. And then using, you know, being able to kind of demon her up or ghoul her up, and you know, when she kind of like, when you get like the full sense of who she is in camera, finally, like the big sort of like reveal, we felt it was like a great contrast to this daughter trying to reach out to her young, you know, I mean, this mom trying to reach out to her young daughter who's, you know, supposed to play about 10 or 11. And so like, it sort of just became this great kind of reverse of what we weren't expecting. And so it just worked out really well.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It totally worked out. You know, it kind of left you wondering, like, when when you do kind of see her, you kind of wonder, like, is that her or not? And I
Yeah.
liked that about it. It kind of.
Yeah. And shout out to, you know, one of my dear friends, Margaret Robbs, who designed from scratch the dress for her. She just did me a solid and had the idea to kind of like dirty it up in like a cool way, and just like really just hooked it up. So
That's
thank
awesome.
you, Margaret.
Yes, thank you, Margaret. Nice work.
Yeah.
Margaret.
Yeah.
So any unexpected things happened during the film? Anything? It was like a complete disaster? Did any
Oh man.
other spirits come out of the mirrors on accident?
You know, another dear friend, Rachel, she lent us her house, and it just is such a great house. Like when you see this short and you see like what we had to work with the hallway sequence, it was what we needed, but it was so much more we ever asked for. And there was this bizarre issue where there was a smoke alarm stuck behind a wall that she hadn't been able to get to, and it would beep every like 40 seconds. And it was one of those things where we were fretting and going, this is the perfect location. Do we deal with this production issue? And we realized, and we were sweating it out the whole time, but we realized during the actual production that it wasn't that big of a deal, and we were able to work around it. And we had a lean and mean crew, and it was just such a great group of people, and we were able to just to like make our days. You know, we didn't go over 12 hours. We did it in 2 days. We got everything we needed, and it was just a great energy, a great time. So Yeah, it was kind of a dream come true. After we got over the weird smoke alarm stuck behind the wall situation.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's man, that's not easy to knock out in 2 days. We've got one showing. I'm actually in the festival as well in
Oh,
in
cool.
the Kansas block, and we've got
Oh, nice.
a little horror movie in there, and we shot it in one day, and it's we've never been able to move that fast. I mean, no way.
Yeah.
But uh yeah, man, that's awesome. Oh, and I did want to give a shout out too, because he couldn't be here with us, but the producer on the film is
Dan Cena. Yeah.
Dan Sema, who's a
Yeah.
Tallgrass alum. We love Dan, and so just wanted to say hi, Dan. I wish you could be here. I wish
Miss you,
everyone,
Dan.
miss you, Dan. I wish everyone could be here
Yeah.
in Wichita. We'll work that out
Yes.
one of these days. So then, and I don't know where we're at time wise. I don't want to keep you all day, but so you said you're a horror nerd, and what's some of your favorite, like your go tos, like all time favorite horror movies?
All time favorites. You know, I think it comes and goes. I think for me, like grew up with The Shining. That was always a movie that was around, you know, on TV or on on video. I would always come back to that one for sure. But something that really like brought me back to it in a deeper way. Because after the '90s, there was sort of this explosion of basically like teen like franchise horror, and they were fun, but they just felt like it just felt like a part of like just the studios, just like what studios do, and as great as the first Scream was, I mean that was a mind blowing experience, especially those first 20 minutes.
Oh yeah.
The movie 28 Days Later for me was like something really shifted for me, where I was this fan of zombie movies, but I hadn't seen something with that kind of energy, where it was the infected were quick, and the third act was not what you expected, and it had the sensibility of just wanting just to hang out with these characters as well. And I just hadn't really seen anything like that before. It just sort of reminded me of the things you just love in movies in general. And so that really brought me back to really getting back into it. And then I think, lately, I think, oh gosh, I just forgot. It's the guy that did Midsommar, his first.
Ari Aster. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was thinking you might say Hereditary.
yeah, I mean, I just forgot or Hereditary. So,
Yeah.
Seeing that in the theater for the first time and not expecting, they did such a great job of marketing it in a very specific way, which sort of, which was the best version of a bait and switch I ever had in a movie theater. And
It shocked me.
it was shocking, and I had no idea where this movie was going after that moment, that death. And as shocking as that was, I don't remember being that on edge and that freaked out in those last 20 minutes or 15 minutes when the son wakes up to the house and he's alone, sort of alone, and is wandering around. Like, I hadn't been that scared in a long time. So like, I try to watch everything, horror wise. If the Rotten Tomatoes score is above 70%, I'm there. But as far as like just remembering how I felt and being so impacted, it was really like 28 Days Later, and how I felt in Hereditary too. Just felt in the movie theater, just going, man, I am freaked out. This feels amazing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 28 Days Later was like, all of a sudden everything was so real, and you had Danny Boyle's touch on it, and it was just, and they were real people, and they were scary, and everything was scary. And then, I agree. I think Hereditary is one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. I just don't remember being that freaked out, but I watch, but I lean more towards the other side of things, that just gory, rad 80s.
Yeah.
Something that's
Shout
fun.
out to I think Devil's Candy was one that came to mind that I was just so impressed. It was such a great kind of, I wasn't expecting for what was going to be explored, to have all that be explored and have it be wrapped up so well and elegantly, and yet like you got like enough like gore and tension and all that. It was just a great time for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all great stuff. Now I really want to go watch Hereditary again. I told myself that's like a every couple
Yeah.
of years revisit. Okay, cool. So then you mentioned that you're kind of developing into a feature, right, with Mirror Gaze. So
Yeah, I mean, feature writing is kind of what a big part of what I'm doing out here. And so, after like making this short, I just was like, this is just a great kind of concept for like just your classic kind of like haunted house, like minimal locations, just the sort of classic thing. And I was like, let me take a stab at this. I hadn't done that before. So, and Dan, the producer of the short, has been great in helping me develop it. He's been a great kind of partner on that too. So.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So then you said you were hesitant to try and do something scary for the fear that it wasn't scary, but I think you succeeded there. So plans are to kind of, yeah, you're welcome. Plans are to kind of stick in the genre for a little while, or?
I mean, like I love being on set. I love working in post with our post team, with the editor. I definitely want to get back out there and make something else. And I'm always up for another horror thing. So like, there's a couple ideas we're circling. We'll try to figure out what will make sense for the short form for sure.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you all the best. I can't wait to see what else you come up with. Is there anywhere people can find you or follow you or follow, what's happening in your world?
I don't know. I mean, I guess like there is, we haven't put Mirror Gaze online yet because we're waiting for the short to go through its festival run. But I'm online, but all of my accounts are private. But if any other film geeks wants to connect and on social media, I'm around. So
All right.
I'm happy to expand my world on Instagram and Facebook.
All right. That's awesome. Well, hey, thank you, Josh, so much for being here today.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
You ever want to hang out and on Zoom and talk about horror movies? I'm into it. So
me too, man, all the time.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for this Q&A. Keep an eye out for all the other awesome Q&As going on throughout the festival. Make sure you vote for those audience award winners after you watch the films, such as Mirror Gaze. And thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you, Josh.
Bye,
Have
guys.
a great day.
You too.